said that the fundamental idea of anarchism is the primacy of the individual, not necessarily in isolation, but with other individuals, and the fulfillment of his freedom. This, in a sense, looks awfully like the founding ideas of the United States of America. And what is it about the American experience which has made freedom, as used in that tradition, become a suspect and indeed a tainted phrase in the minds of anarchists and libertarian socialist thinkers like yourself?
Well, many anarchists, let me just say I don't really regard myself as an anarchist thinker. I'm a derivative fellow traveler, let's say. Anarchist thinkers have constantly referred to the American experience and to the ideal of Jeffersonian democracy very, very favorably. However, and so, Jefferson's concept that the best government is government which governs least, or Thoreau's addition to that the best government is the one that doesn't govern at all, is one that's often repeated by anarchist thinkers to modern times. However, the concept of Jeffersonian democracy, putting aside the fact that it was a slave society, developed in an essentially pre-capitalist system. That is, in a society in which there was no a monopolistic control of. There were no centers of private power, let's say, no significant centers of private power. In fact, it's striking to read today, to back and to read some of the classic libertarian texts. If one reads, say, Wilhelm von Humboldt's Critique of the State in 1792, a work that certainly inspired Mill, and a significant classic libertarian text, he doesn't speak at all of the need to resist private concentration of power. Rather, he speaks of the need to resist the encroachment of coercive state power. And that is what one finds also in the early American tradition. But
that was the only kind of power there was.
The only kind of power there was. I mean, Humboldt takes for granted that individuals are roughly equivalent in their private power, and that the only real imbalance of power that one sees is the centralized authoritarian state, and individual freedom must be sustained against its intrusion. The state of the church, I mean, that's what he feels one must resist. Now, when he speaks, Humboldt, for example, of the need for control of one's creative life, or when he decries the alienation of labor that arises from coercion or even instruction or guidance in one's work rather than self-management in one's work, he's giving an anti-statist. He's developing an anti-statist or anti-theocratic ideology. But the same principles apply very well to the capitalist industrial society that emerged later. And I would think that Humboldt, had he been consistent, would have ended up being a libertarian socialist rather than the...
Don't these precedents suggest that there is something inherently pre-industrial about the applicability of libertarian ideas in this way, that it necessarily presupposes a rather rural, simple society in which the technologies of production are fairly simple, in which the economic organization tends to be small-scale and localized, and in which all the problems which we associate with modern industrial society just aren't there.
Well, let me separate that into two questions. One, how anarchists have felt about that, and two, what I think is the case. As far as anarchist reactions to that, there are two. There has been an anarchist tradition which was, and one might think, say, of Kropotkin as a representative, which had much of the character that you describe. On the other hand, there's another anarchist tradition that developed into anarcho-syndicalism, which simply regarded anarchist ideas as the proper mode of organization for a highly complex, advanced industrial society. And that tendency in anarchism merges, or at least interrelates very, very closely with a variety of left-wing Marxism, the kind that one finds in, say, the Council Communists that grew up in the Luxemburgian tradition and that is later represented by Marxist theorists like, say, Anton Pannekoek, and who developed a whole theory of workers' councils in industry and who was himself a scientist and astronomer, very much part of the industrial world, a Dutch Marxist. Now, it's the latter. Now, so which of these two views is correct? I mean, is it necessary that anarchist concepts belong to the pre-industrial phase of human society, or is it the rational mode of organization for a highly advanced industrial society? Well, I myself believe the latter. That is, I think that industrialization and the advance of technology raises possibilities for self-management over a broad scale that simply didn't exist in an earlier period. and that, in fact, this is precisely the rational mode for an advanced and complex industrial society, one in which workers can very well become masters of their own immediate affairs, that is, direction of and control of the shop, but also can be in a position to make the major substantive decisions concerning the structure of the economy, concerning social institutions, concerning planning regionally and beyond, because they can have, in fact, objectively now, that is, technology permits and industrialization permits, institutions do not permit them to have control over the requisite information, the relevant training to understand these matters. A good deal can be automated. Much of the necessary work that is required to keep a decent level of social life going can be really consigned to machines, at least in principle, which means humans can be free to undertake the kind of creative work which may not have been possible objectively in early stages of the Industrial Revolution.